My daughter abandoned me on Christmas Day, running away with her husband and his parents on a trip that I paid $17,000 for. I was expecting family warmth, but found an empty house and a treacherous note. It turns out they had planned everything. They had a chat without me, where they made fun of my ATM. So I canceled everything. They called me 76 times, but they had no idea that this was just the beginning. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. I expected the smell of bacon. Instead, I found silence. The kitchen table held a single piece of paper, folded once, positioned exactly where my coffee mug usually sat. My name was written across it in Nicole's careful handwriting. Nothing else disturbed the morning stillness. No laughter from the living room, no sounds of wrapping paper being torn, no excited voices discussing our upcoming vacation to Aspen. My hands trembled as I unfolded the note. Dad, we decided to go to Colorado without you. The family needs this time together. Just us. We'll be back January 2nd. Don't worry about the money. We know you can afford it. Thanks for everything. Love, Nicole. The paper slipped from my fingers. They were gone. On Christmas morning, after I'd spent $17,000 planning the perfect family vacation, after months of excited planning sessions where Nicole hugged me and called me the best father in the world, I walked through the house calling their names anyway. Nicole, Zachary, Howard, Kinsley. My voice echoed off empty walls. Their bedroom doors stood open, revealing hastily made beds. In Nicole's closet, the space where her large suitcase usually sat, gaped empty. Zachary's shaving kit was missing from the bathroom counter. Back in the kitchen, I grabbed my phone with shaking fingers. Nicole's number went straight to voicemail. Her cheerful recorded voice felt like mockery now. Nicole, it's Dad. I found your note. I don't understand what's happening. Please call me back. Zachary's phone rang once before clicking to voicemail, then Howard's, then Kinsley's. Each unanswered ring drove the truth deeper into my chest. This wasn't impulsive. They'd planned this. All of them. Together. I sank into my leather recliner, surrounded by wrapped presents I'd bought for people who'd abandoned me. The Christmas tree lights blinked steadily, illuminating gift tags written in my own careful handwriting. To Nicole, with love from Dad. To Zachary, hoping this year brings you everything you want. 3 months ago, I'd announced the vacation during Sunday dinner. Nicole had been struggling since her divorce, and Zachary's parents had never taken a real vacation. I wanted to give them something special. Aspen for New Year's, I'd said, pulling out the resort brochures. 7 days, all expenses paid. Skiing, spa treatments, the works. Nicole had thrown her arms around me. Dad, you're incredible. This is exactly what we all need. Zachary had shaken my hand firmly. Larry, this means everything to us. Truly. Howard and Kinsley had actually cried. We never dreamed we'd see a place like that, Howard had whispered. I'd felt so proud, so useful. Finally, I could create the kind of family memories that would last forever. Now I understood their tears differently. They'd been planning to exclude me even then, weighing how much my generosity could buy them versus how much they could tolerate my presence. I picked up our family photo from last Christmas. 5 smiling faces, Nicole's arm draped around my shoulders, Zachary giving me a thumbs up, Howard and Kinsley beaming with genuine warmth, or what I'd thought was genuine. Had they discussed it after I went to bed? Had they counted the days until they could take my money and leave me behind? The Mercedes keys sat on the kitchen counter where Nicole had left them. A final insult. They'd taken an Uber to the airport rather than drive my car, making sure I knew this wasn't about transportation. It was about choosing not to include me. My phone buzzed with a text from my neighbor. Merry Christmas, Larry! Hope you're having a wonderful morning with your family. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. They'd made their choice. They thought I was just a lonely old man with deep pockets and no backbone, someone who'd absorb their betrayal quietly and continue funding their lives without consequence. They were wrong. I walked to my office and opened the desk drawer where I kept all our vacation documents, confirmation numbers, resort information, payment receipts, everything they'd need for their perfect getaway, everything I still controlled. My finger hovered over the resort's phone number. Walking to my home office felt like crossing a bridge I could never return from. The organized filing cabinet stood exactly where I'd left it. 3 decades of meticulous record-keeping, every receipt cataloged, every contract filed alphabetically. I pulled out the thick folder, labeled Aspen Vacation 2024. The little Nell's number was highlighted in yellow marker. I'd called them dozens of times during planning, discussing room upgrades and special requests. Now I dialed with different intentions. "Good morning, Little Nell Resort. This is Rebecca speaking. How may I assist you?" "This is Larry Hughes. My family checked in last night under the Hughes reservation. I need to make some immediate changes." "Oh yes, Mr. Hughes. Your family arrived safely. They seemed so excited about their stay. What changes would you like to make?" I opened my planning binder to the detailed itinerary I'd spent weeks crafting. "I need to cancel the spa appointments scheduled for December 27th. All 5 of them." "Sir, those are premium bookings during peak season. There will be significant cancellation fees." "Cancel them." The keyboard clicking paused. "Certainly, sir. Anything else?" "The private chef service for New Year's Eve." "Cancel it." I drew a line through the $2,400 expense with my red pen. "Mr. Hughes, that's a very popular service. Are you sure you don't want to reschedule instead?" "Cancel the ski lessons, all of them. Cancel the wine tasting tour. Cancel the private shopping appointment." Each cancellation felt like removing their names from my will, deliberate and final. Rebecca's professional composure cracked slightly. "Sir, this represents most of your planned activities. Is everything all right?" "Everything is perfect. One more thing. Remove my credit card authorization for any additional charges. They can pay for their own extras now." I hung up before she could respond, and immediately opened my filing cabinet's bottom drawer. Inside sat folders containing 7 years of receipts. Every dollar I'd spent supporting Nicole and Zachary, organized by category and year. The university folder held $180,000 in tuition payments spread across 4 years. Nicole's psychology degree that she'd never used. I remembered her graduation day, tears streaming down her face as she hugged me, promising she'd make me proud. Wedding expenses. $65,000 for what Nicole called her fairy tale day. The venue, the flowers, the photographer. I'd written every check with joy, watching my daughter's dreams come true. Apartment down payment, $85,000. I'd structured it as a formal loan, not a gift. Smart business practice, even with family. The paperwork sat in its manila folder, Zachary's signature bold across the promissory note. My phone was already ringing before I'd finished reviewing the files. "Larry? Merry Christmas, buddy." Michael Richardson's voice carried that relaxed holiday tone. My lawyer for 23 years. The man who'd handled my business sale and retirement planning. "Michael, I need legal advice. Today." His pause told me he'd caught the edge in my voice. "Larry, what's wrong? You sound different." "My family went to Aspen without me on Christmas morning, after I paid $17,000 for their vacation." The words came out flat, businesslike. "I want to know my legal options regarding the money I've lent them over the years." "Wait, what? Nicole and Zachary left you on Christmas? Are you serious?" "Completely serious. They took my money and abandoned me. Now I want to know what I can legally recover." Michael's silence stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. Finally, "Larry, the apartment loan documentation we prepared is solid. It's a callable loan with 30-day notice. The credit cards you pay for can be canceled immediately. But are you sure you want to?" "Cancel the cards. Prepare the loan recall notice. I want everything ready by tomorrow morning." "Larry, it's Christmas. Maybe we should think about mediation, family counseling." "They made their choice, Michael. Now I'm making mine." After hanging up, I walked to my fireproof safe and withdrew the documents I'd hoped never to need. Every loan agreement, every co-signed lease, every financial guarantee I'd provided out of love and trust. They had no idea what was legally possible when generosity turned to betrayal. My phone started buzzing with an incoming call. Nicole's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering, my voice steady as granite. "Hello, Nicole." "Dad?" Her voice cracked with panic. "What did you do?" "They're saying all our reservations are canceled. The spa, the restaurants, everything." "I canceled them." Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then, "You can't do that. We're already here. We planned this whole trip around those bookings." No, I planned this trip. You just decided to exclude me from it. Dad, please, let me explain. Explain what? How you coordinated leaving me alone on Christmas morning? How you took my $17,000 and abandoned me? My fingers drummed against the desk. There's nothing to explain, Nicole. Her breathing turned rapid, desperate. We can talk about this when we get back. We can work things out. Can we? Like we worked out telling me you were leaving? Dad, you're being unreasonable. I'm being practical. Michael Richardson is preparing the legal papers to call in your apartment loan. 30 days notice, as specified in the contract you and Zachary signed. The phone went silent except for her sharp intake of breath. You wouldn't. I already have. Your credit cards will be canceled by noon today. Any bank guarantees I've signed are being revoked. I opened my safe and pulled out the thick stack of documents. Did you really think I kept no records of my generosity? Dad, stop, please. Now she was crying. We made a mistake, okay? We should have talked to you first. You made a choice. Now you live with the consequences. What about Howard and Kinsley? They've never done anything to hurt you. They're just innocent. They participated. They could have called me, warned me, refused to go. Instead, they chose sides. I flipped through the loan documents, each page crisp with legal authority. Everyone made their choice. This is insane. You can't destroy our lives over one mistake. One mistake? The words came out colder than I'd intended. Nicole, this was an impulse. You planned this. You discussed it. You coordinated it. You booked transportation without telling me. This was calculated betrayal. Zachary's voice joined the call suddenly. Larry, this is getting out of hand. Let's talk like adults here. Adults don't abandon family members on Christmas morning, Zachary. Look, we thought you might enjoy some time alone. You're always saying how busy your social calendar is. Don't. My voice cut through his attempt at manipulation. Don't you dare try to reframe this as doing me a favor. You took my money and left me behind because you didn't want me there. That's not... I have the receipts, Zachary. Every payment I've made for your life. The apartment down payment, the credit cards, the car loan I co-signed, the wedding expenses, your parents' medical bills I paid last year. Each item landed like a hammer blow. Did you discuss those when you planned to exclude me? Howard's shaky voice came through the phone now. Larry, son, please. We never meant to hurt you. We thought the kids knew what they were doing. Howard, I'm not your son. Your son took my daughter and my money and left me alone on Christmas. Kinsley started crying in the background. This is exactly what we were trying to avoid, Nicole said through her tears. Your guilt trips. Your need to control everything with money. Something cold settled in my chest. Control? I gave you independence, education, a home, a career choice. Everything I did was to free you, not control you. But there were always strings attached, weren't there? Always conditions. The only condition was basic human decency. Apparently that was too much to ask. The hotel room fell quiet, except for muffled sobs. What do you want? Zachary asked finally. Money? An apology? What will it take to fix this? Fix this? I looked at the family photos on my desk, seeing strangers now. Zachary, you can't fix betrayal. You can only live with it. So that's it? You're going to destroy everything because your feelings got hurt? My hand tightened on the phone. My feelings didn't get hurt. My trust got shattered. There's a difference. Through their crying and arguing, I heard another sound. Someone knocking on their hotel room door. After hanging up, I needed quiet. The house felt different now. Larger, emptier, like a museum of misplaced trust. I'd grabbed a sandwich around noon, but barely tasted it. Now, walking through rooms I'd decorated for Christmas morning that never came, I felt like a detective in my own life. Nicole's bedroom door stood slightly open, the way she'd left it Christmas Eve. I pushed it wider and stepped inside. Her childhood photos smiled from the walls. Gymnastics, trophies, high school graduation, family vacations where everyone looked genuinely happy. Had I imagined all of it? The charging station on her nightstand caught my eye. Nicole's phone sat there, forgotten in their rush to the airport. She'd been texting frantically from Howard's phone during our call. I picked up the device, my thumb hovering over the screen. This felt like crossing a line, but they'd already crossed every line that mattered. The phone unlocked with her birthday, a password I'd helped her choose years ago for security. The messaging app showed dozens of unread notifications. I opened the group chat labeled Girls' Weekend Planning and immediately wished I hadn't. 2 weeks ago, Nicole. Dad's insisting on coming with us to Aspen. Jessica. Oof, that's rough. Can't you just tell him no? Nicole. You don't know my dad. He paid for everything, so he thinks he gets a vote. Sarah. Maybe he'd have fun, though. Nicole. Trust me, no. Zachary says the old man will just complain about everything being too expensive or too loud. My hands started shaking. Jessica. What about his parents? They seemed sweet when I met them. Nicole. Howard and Kinsley are actually cool. They'd be way more relaxed without Dad hovering around with his opinions. Sarah. Plus, you guys could actually party. Nicole. Exactly. This is supposed to be our vacation, not a family reunion with my walking ATM. I sat down hard on her bed, the phone trembling in my grip. 1 week ago, Nicole. Update. We figured out how to handle the dad situation. Jessica. Spill. Nicole. We're going to leave Christmas morning before he wakes up. Leave a note. Sarah. That's kind of brutal. Nicole. He'll get over it. Plus, Howard said they felt bad about taking so much money from him anyway. Jessica. Wait, so his in-laws are in on this? Nicole. They needed convincing, but Zachary explained how Dad makes everything about himself. The words blurred as I scrolled through more messages. Each one felt like a paper cut, small but accumulating into something unbearable. Nicole. Sometimes I think Dad forgets we're adults now. Sarah. At least he pays for everything. While Nicole. True. Silver lining of having an overprotective, rich dad. Jessica. Must be nice having a father who can afford to spoil you. Nicole. It comes with strings, though. He expects gratitude and family time in return. Sarah. Ugh. Emotional labor. I remembered the conversation from 2 weeks ago now. Zachary's suggestion hadn't been casual at all. Larry, don't you think it might be nice if just the younger generation went this time? He'd said over Sunday dinner. Nicole had jumped in immediately. Dad, you'd probably be more comfortable at home anyway. You always say how much you love having quiet time to read. I'd laughed, thinking they were joking, but I'd been looking forward to this family time for months. The awkward silence that followed made sense now. They'd already decided. Howard and Kinsley had avoided my eyes because they knew. Everyone knew except me. 3 days ago, Nicole. Final check. Everyone's tickets confirmed? Jessica. You're really doing this, Nicole. It's better this way. Trust me. Dad will sulk for a week, then move on. Sarah. What if he doesn't? Nicole. What's he going to do? Cut me off? He's threatened that before and never follows through. Jessica. Maybe because he loves you. Nicole. Maybe, or maybe because he needs us more than we need him. I closed the messaging app and stared at the dark screen, seeing my reflection looking older than I remembered. They hadn't just excluded me, they'd mocked me. My generosity wasn't appreciated, it was expected. My desire for family connection wasn't cherished, it was tolerated. The phone buzzed with a new message from the group chat. Nicole. Emergency dad went nuclear. Canceled everything and threatened to call in the apartment loan. Jessica. Wait. What? Nicole. He's serious this time. We might have really screwed up. I set the phone back on the charging station and walked to my office, my footsteps echoing in the silent house. They thought they knew me. They thought I was predictable, manageable, someone who made empty threats and bought forgiveness with money. They were about to learn how wrong they were. My office had always been my sanctuary, mahogany desk, organized filing cabinets, everything in its place. Now it felt like a war room. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new spreadsheet, muscle memory from 30 years of running a construction business taking over. Column headers, date, category, amount, documentation status, legal structure. I started with Nicole's education. Row by row, I entered every tuition payment, every dormitory fee, every textbook purchase I'd covered. $45,000 per year for 4 years. The laptop's calculator showed $180,000 total. Wedding expenses came next, the venue Nicole had to have, the dress that cost more than most people's cars, the honeymoon to Bora Bora. Because we'll only do this once, Dad. Another $65,000. The apartment down payment made me pause. I'd been smart there, structuring it as a formal loan with Michael's help. $85,000 with a promissory note, signed by both Nicole and Zachary. Interest rate below market, but legally binding. Vehicle purchases: Nicole's BMW, $45,000, Zachary's truck, $35,000. Both loans I'd co-signed when their credit wasn't sufficient. Monthly support over the past 3 years averaged $2,500, rent assistance, grocery money, insurance payments, emergency funds, another $90,000. The final total made me sit back in my chair. $15,000, $500,000 of documented generosity, repaid with calculated betrayal. I reached for my phone and dialed Michael's number. Larry, how are you holding up? I need an emergency meeting, tonight if possible. It's Christmas Day. Michael, I've just calculated over $500,000 in family support over the past decade. I need to know exactly what legal options that creates. Silence. Then, I'll meet you at my office at 5:30. Let me call David Cruz. You'll want tax implications reviewed too. Driving downtown felt surreal. Christmas lights twinkled on empty streets while I navigated toward a meeting that would change everything. Michael's building was dark, except for his 20th floor office windows. He met me at the elevator, his usually impeccable suit replaced by jeans and a sweater. Larry, in 23 years of representing you, I've never seen you like this. In 23 years, I've never been systematically betrayed by the people I love most. David joined us by video call from his home office, his background showing a Christmas tree with scattered wrapping paper. Larry, Michael filled me in. You're talking about significant asset recovery here. I spread my documentation across Michael's conference table. Tell me what I can legally do. Michael reviewed the apartment loan paperwork first. This is solid. You structured it perfectly. Callable with 30 days written notice. Below market interest rate clearly documented as family assistance. Completely enforceable. The credit cards. You're the primary account holder. They're authorized users. You can remove them immediately. Any debt they've accumulated on your cards becomes due on demand. David leaned forward on the screen. From a tax perspective, you've been treating monthly support as gifts under the annual exclusion limit. Smart, but the major items, education, wedding, apartment, those create legitimate debt instruments if the recipients breach trust. What about the car loans? You're guarantor on both. If they miss payments, you can demand immediate payoff or repossess through the lender. I felt a cold satisfaction settling in my chest. So they have no legal protection? Michael adjusted his glasses. Larry, they have no assets of their own, no independent income stream, and they've made themselves completely financially dependent on your goodwill. From a legal standpoint, you hold every card. The emotional fraud aspect? Harder to prove, but you have documented evidence of premeditated deception while accepting financial benefits. A court would view that very unfavorably. David added, plus there's the constructive trust doctrine. Money given under false pretenses can be recovered even if initially structured as gifts. Timeline for implementation? Michael pulled out his legal calendar. Credit cards can be canceled tonight. Apartment loan notice can be served tomorrow. They'll have 30 days from receipt. Vehicle loans can be called if they miss a single payment. And if they resist? Then we file for breach of trust, unjust enrichment, and fraudulent acceptance of benefits. With your documentation, it's not even a difficult case. I gathered the documents, each paper representing not just money, but years of love freely given and carefully betrayed. Draft everything, all of it. Larry, once we start this process, they started it when they planned to abandon me while taking my money. I'm finishing it. Michael nodded slowly and opened his laptop. I'll have preliminary documents ready by tomorrow morning. Outside, Christmas lights still twinkled, but they looked different now, like evidence markers at a crime scene. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app to begin the first phase. 4 days of preparation had transformed my house into a fortress of documentation. Legal papers organized in neat stacks, financial records cross-referenced, Michael's preliminary agreements reviewed and ready. When Zachary's truck pulled into my driveway at 6:30 on December 29th, I was watching from the living room window. They looked exactly as I'd expected. Wrinkled clothes, Nicole's eyes red-rimmed from crying, Howard and Kinsley trailing behind like reluctant participants in someone else's drama. 4 days in a roadside motel had stripped away their vacation confidence. I opened the door before they could knock. Larry. Zachary's voice carried forced authority, like a man trying to intimidate his way out of quicksand. "Come in." I stepped back without warmth, without the usual embrace I'd have offered before. Living room. Nicole rushed toward me with tears already flowing. "Daddy, I'm so sorry. We never meant for things to get so complicated." "Sit down, Nicole." She froze at my tone. Even Zachary looked surprised by the ice in my voice. Howard cleared his throat nervously. "Larry, son, maybe we should all take a breath here. These family misunderstandings happen." "This wasn't a misunderstanding." I remained standing while they settled uncomfortably on my furniture. "This was a coordinated decision to exclude me while accepting my financial support." Kinsley dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "We thought you might enjoy some quiet time at home. It was supposed to be thoughtful." Thoughtful would have been asking. "What you did was plan my exclusion while ensuring I paid for your vacation." Nicole's tears intensified. "Daddy, please. It wasn't like that. We thought you'd appreciate having the house to yourself for once." "Stop." The word cut through her manipulation like a blade. "I've spent 4 days analyzing exactly what this family relationship has cost me financially. The numbers are illuminating." Zachary leaned forward aggressively. "What's that supposed to mean?" I walked to my desk and picked up the folder Michael had prepared. "It means I've reviewed every financial transaction between us over the past decade. $515,000 in documented support." The room went silent except for Kinsley's sharp intake of breath. "Your education, Nicole. Your wedding. Your apartment down payment, which was legally structured as a loan, not a gift, though you seem to have forgotten that detail." Nicole's face went white. "What do you mean loan?" "I mean you and Zachary signed promissory notes for $85,000 at below-market interest rates. Michael Richardson structured it properly to protect both parties." I opened the folder to show the documents. "The loan is callable with 30 days written notice." "You wouldn't—" "I already have. Notice was served yesterday by certified mail." Zachary shot to his feet. "This is insane. You can't destroy our lives over hurt feelings." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply calling in legitimate debts." I flipped to the next section. "Your credit cards were canceled effective January 1st. Car loan guarantees I provided are being reviewed for revocation." "Dad, stop this!" Nicole's voice cracked with real fear now. "We'll lose everything." "You should have considered that before planning my exclusion." Howard stood shakily. "Larry, surely we can work something out. Families shouldn't handle disagreements like business transactions." "You're right, Howard. Families should handle disagreements with honesty and respect. When you choose to handle family relationships like business transactions, taking money while providing no consideration in return, then I'll respond in kind." "Consideration?" Zachary's face flushed red. "We're your family. That should be enough." "Family members don't conspire to abandon each other on Christmas morning." Kinsley was crying openly now. "We never meant to hurt you. We just thought—" "You thought I was a convenient source of funding with no feelings to consider." I closed the folder. "You were wrong." Nicole collapsed back into the sofas, finally understanding the scope of her situation. "How much time do we have?" 30 days from receipt of notice for the apartment. Credit cards are already canceled. Car payments become your sole responsibility immediately." "We can't afford any of this without your help," she whispered. "Then you should have thought about that before you decided my presence was unwanted." Zachary paced toward the window, his hands clenched into fists. "This is blackmail. This is business. Something you should understand, given your eagerness to treat family relationships as financial transactions." Nicole looked up at me with desperation replacing manipulation. "What do you want? An apology? Groveling? What will it take to fix this?" I met her eyes without flinching. "You can't fix betrayal with apologies, Nicole. You can only live with the consequences." "So that's it?" Zachary spun around to face me. "You're going to financially destroy us because we took a vacation without you." "I'm going to treat you exactly the way you treated me, as people whose feelings and needs don't matter." The room fell silent except for the ticking of my grandfather clock. Finally, Zachary straightened his shoulders and looked directly at me. "We need time to figure this out. You have exactly the time specified in the legal documents, not 1 day more." As they filed toward the door, defeated and desperate, I knew they wouldn't accept this quietly. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. Morning brought the satisfaction of systematic implementation. My desk was organized with contact lists, legal timelines, and action items, arranged in order of priority. 8 o'clock sharp, I made my first call. Michael, it's Larry. Time to file the apartment loan collection lawsuit. You're certain about this? Once we file, there's no going back without looking weak. File it. $85,000 plus accumulated interest and legal fees. Full collection action. I'll have it submitted within the hour. What about the credit cards? Calling the bank next. First National answered on the second ring. Mr. Hughes, how can we help you today? I need to remove Nicole Hughes as an authorized user on all my accounts, effective immediately. Certainly, sir. May I ask the reason for the removal? Business decision, family financial restructuring. The cards will be canceled within 24 hours. Any outstanding charges will remain on your primary account. Understood. Chase Auto Finance took longer to reach the right department. Mr. Hughes, you're calling about the guarantee removal on the Zachary Thompson vehicle loan. Correct. I want my financial guarantee removed from his loan agreement. Sir, that will require him to qualify independently or find another guarantor. If he cannot, the loan becomes immediately callable. That's his responsibility now. By 10 o'clock, every legal action was in motion. The satisfaction felt clean, businesslike. No emotion, just consequences for documented betrayal. My doorbell rang at 10:30. Nicole stood on my porch holding the manila envelope, tears already streaming. Daddy, my credit card was declined at the grocery store. The bank said you canceled my authorization. I removed you as an authorized user. The cards were mine, not yours. She pushed past me into the living room, opening the envelope to scatter family photos across my coffee table. Look at these. Remember when you taught me to ride a bike, my graduation, my wedding day where you walked me down the aisle? I remember paying for all of those occasions. How can you be so cold? I'm your daughter. Daughters don't conspire to abandon their fathers on Christmas morning. Zachary appeared in my doorway, phone pressed to his ear. No, I understand. Yes, the guarantee has been removed. He hung up and stared at me with barely controlled fury. The bank wants my car loan paid in full, or they'll repossess. I can't qualify for refinancing without your guarantee. Then you shouldn't have risked it by betraying my trust. Howard and Kinsley shuffled in behind their son, looking uncomfortable. Larry, surely we can work something out, Howard said. These are just family disagreements. We've all said things. This isn't about things we've said. This is about things you've done. Premeditated financial fraud, while accepting my generosity. Nicole's tears turned desperate. What do you want from us? Groveling? Public humiliation? Tell me what will fix this. Nothing will fix betrayal. You can only pay the legal consequences. Zachary stepped closer, his voice dropping to something that sounded almost like a threat. You know, Larry, family relationships go both ways. You might want to consider what happens when you're alone in this big house. Accidents happen to elderly people. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Could you repeat that, Zachary? My lawyer will be interested in documented intimidation attempts. His face flushed red. I wasn't threatening. You were implying that my age makes me vulnerable to accidents if I don't comply with your financial demands. That's textbook elder intimidation. Nicole grabbed Zachary's arm. Stop talking. You're making it worse. Worse than being financially destroyed by your own family? I looked directly at Zachary. I have security cameras recording this conversation. I have witnesses to your threatening behavior. Every word you've spoken is being documented for legal proceedings. Kinsley started crying. This isn't what families do to each other. Larry, you're destroying relationships that took decades to build. I didn't destroy them. I discovered they were already destroyed. You helped plan my exclusion while accepting my money. That destroyed the relationship. You thought I was a convenient ATM, with no feelings to consider. Zachary paced toward the window, his fists clenched. Fine. You want to play hardball? Two can play that game. This isn't a game. This is debt collection. You owe $85,000 plus interest. The court will decide if you pay voluntarily or through asset seizure. We'll see about that. Nicole gathered her photos with shaking hands. 30 days? 30 days from legal service. The clock started yesterday. As they reached my front door, Zachary turned back with cold calculation in his eyes. You know what your problem is, Larry? You think money makes you powerful. But power comes from having people who care about you. And you just threw that away. I watched them walk to their truck, noting how Zachary's hands trembled as he started the engine. They still didn't understand. I hadn't thrown anything away. I had simply stopped funding my own betrayal. New Year's Day brought the kind of quiet satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. The legal machinery was grinding forward exactly as planned, and I spent the afternoon reading in my study, occasionally glancing at the snow outside my window. At 2 o'clock, my phone rang. "Larry, it's Margaret." My cousin's voice carried an unusual tension. "I need to talk to you about something concerning." Margaret and I had maintained steady contact since childhood, built on mutual respect, and shared family history. If she sounded worried, I paid attention. "Of course. What's troubling you?" "I've received several phone calls today about you, from Nicole, Zachary, even Howard and Kinsley. They're all saying similar things, and frankly, Larry, it doesn't sound like the man I've known for 40 years. I set my book aside and focused completely. "What exactly are they saying?" "They claim you've become paranoid and suspicious since retirement. Nicole was crying, saying you've turned against your own family over money. Zachary insisted you're not thinking clearly and need intervention." The sophistication of their strategy impressed me despite my anger. "And what's your assessment of these claims?" "That's why I'm calling. 3 separate family members contacting me within 2 hours, all with nearly identical talking points. That's not organic family concern, Larry. That's coordination." Margaret's business background in marketing made her naturally suspicious of orchestrated campaigns. They're trying to paint you as mentally declining, while positioning themselves as victims trying to help their troubled patriarch. "What specifically did they claim?" "Nicole said you've become obsessed with money and are punishing her for wanting independence. Zachary suggested you're showing signs of cognitive decline and making irrational financial decisions. Howard added that they're all worried about your judgment. Each false claim landed like a calculated blow. They were attempting to undermine my credibility before I could damage theirs. Margaret, are you familiar with the actual sequence of events that led to this situation?" "Only what they've told me, which is why I'm asking for your version." I spent 15 minutes providing the factual timeline, the planned vacation, their Christmas morning abandonment, the note, their coordinated exclusion while accepting my financial support. I kept emotion out of it, presenting only documented facts. That's quite different from what they described. Margaret's voice carried new understanding. They made it sound like you suddenly became unreasonable about normal family independence. They conspired to abandon me on Christmas morning after I paid $17,000 for their vacation. When I implemented legal consequences for their documented loans and financial obligations, they escalated to intimidation and now reputation management. Larry, I'm going to ask you something directly. Are you experiencing any cognitive issues, any changes in judgment or decision-making? The question didn't offend me. It was exactly what a concerned relative should ask when presented with conflicting narratives. My lawyer, Michael Richardson, has worked with me on these legal actions. My accountant, David Cruz, reviewed all financial documentation. Both professionals can attest to my mental acuity. The family simply doesn't want to face legal consequences for their calculated betrayal. That aligns with the Larry I know. The man who built and successfully sold a construction company doesn't suddenly become paranoid over normal family dynamics. Margaret, I appreciate your call more than you know. How many other relatives have they contacted? I suspect they're working through the family directory systematically. Your brother Robert, cousin Janet, probably your neighbors too. The scope of their campaign exceeded my initial assessment. They were attempting comprehensive reputation destruction to pressure me into backing down from legal actions. Are you willing to help me document their false claims? Absolutely. What they're doing is character assassination, and it's not going to work on people who know you. After hanging up, I opened a new document on my laptop. If they wanted to wage reputation warfare, I would respond with the same systematic approach I'd used for their financial betrayal. The family had just escalated from threatening my safety to attacking my character. They were about to learn that this was an even bigger mistake. Evening brought the satisfaction of documentation. I'd spent the day creating a systematic response to their reputation campaign, timeline of events, professional references, character witnesses. Margaret had provided detailed accounts of their coordinated phone calls. By 7:30, I was reading in my living room when headlights swept across my window. Zachary's truck pulled into my driveway with unnecessary aggression, tires squealing slightly on the pavement. Through the window, I watched him slam the door and stride toward my house with the body language of someone who'd run out of reasonable options. I activated my security system from the discreet panel beside my chair. 6 cameras covering all approaches to the house, everything recording automatically to cloud storage. 30 years of running a construction business had taught me the value of documenting confrontations. His pounding on my front door sounded more like demands than requests. "Open up, Larry. We need to talk." I opened the door but remained in the threshold, maintaining control of the space. "Good evening, Zachary." "Don't give me that polite nonsense." He pushed past me into the living room, his movements jerky with barely controlled fury. "You think you can destroy my family with your legal games?" "I think I can collect legitimate debts through proper legal channels." "Legal channels?" His voice rose to something approaching shouting. "You're ruining our lives over hurt feelings." "I'm exercising contractual rights over documented loans." Zachary moved closer, using his height and 40-year age advantage to loom over me. "You know what happens to stubborn old men who live alone in big houses like this?" I met his stare without flinching. "What happens, Zachary?" "Accidents. Break-ins. Bad things happen when neighbors can't hear you calling for help." His voice dropped to something that sounded almost casual. "Your fancy alarm system won't help if you have a medical emergency, or if someone decides you need to learn a lesson about family loyalty." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm explaining reality to someone who seems confused about his situation." He gestured around my living room. "You're 62 years old, living alone, no family support anymore. Things could get very difficult for you if you don't stop this legal nonsense." I nodded thoughtfully, as if considering his words. "That's an interesting perspective. Would you like to see something?" Without waiting for an answer, I walked toward my home office. Zachary followed, probably thinking he'd intimidated me into compliance. "See, the thing about living alone in a big house," I said, opening my office door, "is that you can afford proper security measures." The wall of monitors showed 6 different camera angles of my property, including perfect footage of Zachary's arrival and our entire conversation. His face went white as he recognized himself on screen, making threats to an elderly man. "You can't record me without permission." "This is my private property. I can record anyone who enters." I pointed to the timestamp showing his threats from 3 minutes earlier. "Everything automatically uploads to secure cloud storage. My lawyer, Michael Richardson, receives copies of all security footage." Zachary stared at the screens with growing panic. "You have to delete this." "I don't have to do anything except provide evidence to law enforcement when elderly persons are threatened in their own homes." "Delete it, Larry. I wasn't serious about—" "About what? Medical emergencies? Break-ins? Teaching me lessons about family loyalty?" I picked up my phone. Threatening an elderly person is a serious crime in Michigan, especially with documented evidence. "You can't call the police over a conversation." "I can call them about criminal intimidation and threats against a senior citizen." I dialed 911, which carries enhanced penalties under Michigan law. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Larry Hughes at 847 Maple Ridge Drive. I need police response for criminal threats made against me by a family member. I'm 62 years old, and the suspect is still in my home making threats about accidents and break-ins." Zachary's face went from anger to pure panic. "Hang up. I'll leave right now." "Sir, are you in immediate danger?" the dispatcher asked. "The suspect is agitated, but I have him on security camera. I have video evidence of the threats." "Officers are dispatched. Please stay on the line." 2 patrol cars arrived within 8 minutes. I provided the officers with printed screenshots of Zachary making threats, along with the audio recording. Michigan's enhanced penalties for crimes against elderly persons made this a priority. Arrest. "Mr. Thompson, you're under arrest for criminal intimidation and threatening an elderly person," the lead officer announced, producing handcuffs. Zachary's hands shook as they cuffed him. "This is insane. He's my wife's father." "That makes it worse, sir. Family relationship doesn't excuse threatening behavior." As they led him to the patrol car, Zachary looked back at me with something approaching desperation. "You don't know what you're doing, Larry. This won't end the way you think." I watched the taillights disappear down my street, then called Michael Richardson to inform him about our newest legal development. The court documents arrived on a snowy Tuesday morning, delivered by Michael Richardson with the satisfaction of a man who'd orchestrated a perfect legal victory. I spread them across my dining room table like a general, reviewing successful battle plans. "Complete judgment in your favor," Michael announced, setting his briefcase beside the papers. $85,000 recovered through apartment sale, all credit obligations transferred back to primary borrowers, criminal charges proceeding separately. The numbers were more satisfying than I'd anticipated. Not just the money, though recovering every penny felt appropriate, but the systematic nature of justice served through proper legal channels. Zachary's employment situation. Criminal record for threatening an elderly person makes him essentially unemployable in any professional capacity. Most employers run background checks now. I reviewed the property sale documents. Their apartment had sold within a week to cash buyers. The real estate market didn't care about family drama, only market values and clear titles. "Vehicle repossession completed yesterday," Michael continued. "Bank moved quickly once the guarantee removal was processed. They're using public transportation now." Through my network of neighbors and acquaintances, I'd learned the family was crowded into Howard and Kinsley's one-bedroom apartment. 5 adults sharing space designed for 2, with Nicole working retail for the first time since college, and Zachary unable to find employment. At noon, I watched them walk up my driveway. All 5 of them moved differently now, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast, the body language of people who'd learned the cost of betrayal. Nicole led the group, her face red from crying even before reaching my door. I let them inside without the formality of being asked. "Dad," Nicole's voice cracked immediately, "we need to talk." They arranged themselves in my living room like supplicants before a judge. Howard and Kinsley looked exhausted, aged beyond their years by stress and crowded living conditions. Zachary couldn't meet my eyes. "I'm listening." "We were wrong." Nicole's words came out rushed, desperate, completely, totally wrong about everything. The vacation, leaving you behind, the way we treated your generosity, all of it. Zachary forced himself to look at me. "I made terrible mistakes, Larry. The threats, the things I said. I was scared and stupid, and I hurt you when you'd only ever helped us." Howard cleared his throat nervously. "Larry, son, we're too old to support everyone. Kinsley and I, we can't. Our pension wasn't meant for 5 people." "We're still family," Kinsley added quietly. "Despite everything that's happened, we're still family." I studied their faces, looking for signs of the same calculation I'd seen before. But desperation had stripped away pretense. These were people who'd learned the difference between genuine remorse and strategic manipulation. "Tell me about the planning," I said. Nicole flinched. "What planning?" "The Christmas vacation conspiracy. How long did you discuss excluding me? Who suggested it first? When did you decide to coordinate leaving me behind?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Nicole looked at Zachary, who looked at his parents, who looked back at Nicole. "It wasn't—" Nicole started, then stopped. Zachary brought it up first, maybe 3 weeks before Christmas. He said it might be more relaxing without you there. "And you agreed?" "I did." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I agreed because I wanted a vacation where I didn't have to be grateful all the time, where I could just exist without feeling like I owed someone everything." The honesty was more devastating than any lie would have been. "Howard, Kinsley, your participation?" Howard's hands shook slightly. "We knew it was wrong when we agreed, but Zachary convinced us you'd understand eventually, that you'd prefer quiet time alone. So you coordinated leaving me alone on Christmas morning after I'd paid $17,000 for your vacation." "Yes." Nicole's admission came out like a confession. "We planned it. We discussed it. We knew exactly what we were doing, and we did it anyway." I sat back in my chair, processing their complete capitulation. No excuses, no justifications, no attempts to minimize their choices. "What do you want from me now?" "Forgiveness," Nicole whispered. "A chance to make it right," Zachary added. "Help," Howard said simply. I looked at each of them. my daughter who'd inherited my business sense but not my integrity, my son-in-law who'd learned the cost of threatening those who'd supported him, the elderly couple who'd chosen convenience over character. If I were to consider any future relationship, I said slowly, it would require conditions. Hope flickered in their eyes like candle flames in wind. Complete honesty about your motivations and planning. No more coordination behind my back. An acknowledgement that trust, once broken, must be rebuilt through consistent actions over time. They nodded eagerly, desperately. But first, I continued, you need to understand exactly how much your betrayal cost, not just financially, but personally. I walked to my office and returned with Nicole's phone. The next afternoon brought another performance, though this one was more polished than their previous attempts. I watched through my living room window as they approached my front door, Nicole clutching a bouquet of expensive white lilies, the flowers I'd brought to her mother's funeral 15 years ago. They'd prepared more carefully this time. Nicole's tears started before she even knocked, timed perfectly for maximum emotional impact. Zachary positioned himself slightly behind her with practiced humility, head bowed at precisely the right angle. I opened the door to find Nicole's carefully crafted breakdown already in progress. "Daddy!" She pressed the flowers into my hands while sobbing with theatrical precision. "I love you so much, and I'm so sorry for everything we did to you." The others filed in behind her like a choreographed funeral procession. Zachary's apology came on cue. "Larry, I've spent every night thinking about what I said to you, what I threatened. I learned my lesson about respecting the man who gave us everything. I understand now." Howard and Kinsley provided the perfect elderly backdrop, their genuine distress mixed with practiced support for their children's performance. "We just want our family whole again," Kinsley whispered. "Life's too short for all this anger and separation." Nicole collapsed onto my sofa with calculated vulnerability. "I know we hurt you terribly, but I promise, I swear, I'll be the daughter you deserve. I'll make everything right." As she spoke, I noticed her phone positioned carefully against the cushion, screen facing toward our conversation. The small red recording dot was barely visible, but it was there. "Tell me more about making things right," I said, settling into my chair with strategic distance. "I understand now that taking your generosity for granted was wrong," Nicole continued, her voice carrying the practiced cadence of rehearsed sincerity. "I see how much you've sacrificed for us, how much you've given, and I want to earn your love back." Zachary glanced at his watch, a quick, almost unconscious gesture that contradicted his claims about this being the most important moment of his life. "I'm ready to prove my gratitude every single day," he added, checking the time again while speaking about eternal appreciation. The disconnect between their words and behavior created a fascinating study in deception. Nicole's tears appeared genuine, but her strategic phone positioning revealed calculation. Zachary's apologies sounded memorized, delivered between obvious time checks that suggested somewhere else he needed to be. "Howard, Kinsley, what are your thoughts on rebuilding family trust?" I asked. "We believe in forgiveness," Howard answered carefully. "People make mistakes, but families should find ways to move forward together. Even when those mistakes involve systematic planning and coordination." The question hung in the air like an accusation. Nicole adjusted her phone's position, subtle but noticeable if you were watching for deceptive behavior. "We all regret the planning aspect," Zachary said, glancing at his watch again. "It was wrong to coordinate excluding you. We understand that now." "Do you?" I looked directly at Nicole. "What exactly do you understand about coordination and planning?" Her carefully prepared composure flickered for just a moment. "I understand that we made decisions as a group that hurt you individually, and that was selfish and cruel." The answer was too polished, too therapeutic sounding, like something coached by someone who'd researched family reconciliation tactics online. "Nicole, you seem distracted by something on your phone." She went rigid. "My phone? No, I'm completely focused on you, Dad, on us, on fixing this." But her eyes had darted to the device involuntarily, confirming what I'd already observed. She was recording our conversation, probably planning to use selective clips for social media, sympathy, or legal documentation. "Zachary, you keep checking your watch." Do you have somewhere more important to be? His face flushed. No, this is the most important thing in my life right now. I was just... Nervous habit. The lies layered upon lies with increasing transparency. 40 years of business negotiations had taught me to read people's true priorities behind their stated intentions. These people were performing repentance, not feeling it. I appreciate you all coming, I said, standing up to signal the conversation's end. This has been very educational. Nicole's panic was immediate and visible. Educational? Dad, what do you mean? We're trying to apologize, to make things right. You're trying to manipulate me with a performance while secretly recording our conversation for your own purposes. The accusation landed like a physical blow. Nicole's hand moved instinctively toward her phone, confirming my observation. I would never. You positioned your phone to record this conversation from the moment you sat down. Zachary checked his watch 6 times during his speech about how this moment means everything to him. Your apologies sound rehearsed because they are rehearsed. Zachary's defensive anger flared immediately. You're being paranoid. You came here with another manipulation strategy because the last one failed. The room fell silent except for the Kinsley's quiet crying. I had hoped, I continued, that losing everything might teach you the difference between genuine remorse and strategic performance. Apparently, it hasn't. Nicole tried one last desperate appeal. Please, Dad, we need you. We have nothing left. You have exactly what you chose when you decided to betray my trust while pretending to value it. I walked toward the front door, opening it deliberately. But before you leave, I said, returning to my chair, there's one more thing you need to understand about what you lost. I picked up her phone from my office and unlocked it with her birthday. 3 weeks passed like the turning of legal documents. Methodical, final, irreversible. I spent those days completing what they'd started with their betrayal. The systematic severing of all connections between us. Michael Richardson delivered the final paperwork on a crisp February morning. Property transfers complete, he announced, setting down the thick folder. $85,000 recovered and deposited. All credit guarantees revoked and processed. Legally speaking, you have no financial obligations to any of them. Estate planning will updated per your instructions. Primary beneficiaries are now Margaret and the Detroit Children's Hospital. Family members specifically excluded with documented reasons. The legal completeness felt satisfying in a way that emotional victories never could. Every document represented a choice they'd made and a consequence they'd earned. Through Margaret's updates, I learned they'd relocated to a small town near Cleveland where Howard's brother owned a trailer park. 5 adults sharing a single-wide mobile home, Nicole working 2 retail jobs, Zachary's criminal record preventing steady employment. Natural consequences flowing from natural choices. The letter arrived on February 1st. Nicole's handwriting had always been careful, but desperation made it shaky now. The envelope was thin. Discount stationery. No return address. I opened it at my kitchen table while drinking coffee that I'd bought, without considering anyone else's preferences. Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from us, but I have to try. We're living in Uncle Bob's trailer park now. Zachary, me, Howard, Kinsley, and Bob's family, all sharing a single mobile home. The kids sleep on air mattresses in the living room. I'm working at a grocery store and a gas station just to help with groceries. Zachary can't find anything steady because of his record. Howard's blood pressure medication costs more than we can afford, and Kinsley's arthritis is getting worse from the stress. I'm not asking for much, just enough to get us a small apartment so the older folks can have some dignity. Maybe $500 a month? I know I was wrong about everything, but we're family. Please, Dad, we've learned our lesson. Love, Nicole. I read it twice, looking for signs of the manipulation I'd come to expect, but desperation had stripped away the calculated appeals, leaving only genuine need and the same fundamental misunderstanding that had started everything. She still thought this was about punishment rather than consequences, still believed family obligation trumped personal responsibility, still assumed my resources existed to solve problems created by her choices. I folded the letter and filed it with the other legal documents. No response was necessary. After decades of supporting ungrateful dependents, silence felt appropriate. That afternoon, I called Margaret. "How are you adjusting to your newfound freedom?" she asked. "Better than expected. I'm planning dinner at that Italian place downtown next week. Would you like to join me?" "I'd love to. It's been too long since you socialized without worrying about family drama." "Much too long." After hanging up, I made other calls. My old business partner, David, wanted to discuss investment opportunities. My neighbor, Robert, had mentioned a community theater group. There were hiking clubs, book discussions, travel groups, entire worlds I'd neglected while funding other people's dreams. The phone number for the senior singles group sat on my desk. At 62, dating felt simultaneously terrifying and liberating. But meeting someone who valued conversation over credit cards, companionship over financial support, seemed worth exploring. I walked through my house that evening, seeing spaces differently. The dining room where they'd plotted my exclusion could host dinner parties for people who actually enjoyed my company. The guest bedrooms could welcome visitors who came for relationship rather than resources. Justice hadn't required dramatic confrontations or elaborate revenge schemes. It had simply required stopping the flow of unearned benefits to people who'd confused generosity with obligation. They'd taught me a valuable lesson about the difference between family by blood and family by choice. Some people prove themselves worthy of trust and support through their actions. Others prove themselves unworthy through theirs. My calendar for next month was filling with possibilities. Theater tickets with Margaret, investment meetings with David, hiking trails with the outdoor club, activities chosen for my own interests rather than other people's expectations. The house felt lighter somehow, as if removing toxic relationships had improved the actual air quality. For the first time in years, I was planning a future based on my own hopes rather than other people's needs. At 62, I was finally free to discover what genuine relationships looked like when built on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. The adventure was just beginning. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.